Good morning. Welcome to Talkin Business. I'm Joe Catrambone, CEO of Stuart Martin County Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure today to have Nina Ferraro with us today. Nina, welcome.
Thank you.
It's so nice
Thank
to
you for
have
having
you.
me.
How long have you been a chamber member?
I want to say since maybe 2002.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah.
I usually write that down, but I know it's been a
Yeah,
while.
It's been a while. 2002, but when I was home with my babies, I think I took a few years off.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How old are your babies now?
Well, they're 18 and 15, definitely not babies anymore, but they'll always be my babies.
Well, you're not an empty nester yet, are you?
No, not yet. Soon. Well, not soon, but
Your 15-year-old is
she's a
will be-
freshman.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed, you're from Kentucky. How did you end up in Martin County, Martin County?
Well, I was born in Kentucky, but actually lived in Indiantown when I was little.
Oh, really?
So I lived on Brady Ranch in Indiantown.
Where?
Brady Ranch.
Okay.
So in Indiantown, and that's where I grew up. And my mom met my stepfather in Okeechobee, and we moved to Sarasota, which is where he actually lived. So I kind of grew up in Sarasota and went to Stetson Law School in St. Pete, and I met my ex-husband, R.J. Ferraro, who is a longtime, obviously, resident, lifetime resident of Martin County, and moved over here.
I have a friend from Booneville, Kentucky. You know where that is?
I don't.
Okay. And many years ago, she invited me to, she lived in Palm Beach Gardens, and she was going home to Booneville for Thanksgiving. And she said, you have to come and witness one of my mother's Thanksgivings.
Witness is probably the right word.
Oh my God. I never saw so much food in my life.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. But Kentucky's a really neat state.
Yes.
I love horses, so it's always caught my attention. The Kentucky Derby and all of the equestrian facilities in Kentucky. It's unbelievable. So your BA is in criminology.
It is.
Did you want to be a law enforcement officer, or?
No, I always wanted to be a prosecutor.
Okay.
From 6th grade on, I actually still have the little pamphlet that says, you take those tests when you're in school. And in 6th grade, they gave us one of those personality tests. So back in what would that have been, the 70s, 80s. And mine came up as attorney. And I just decided I wanted to be a prosecutor.
I mean, you actually knew you wanted to be an attorney when you were in the 6th grade?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Really?
Yes.
That's unusual. I mean, was there something that perked your interest? Did you know an attorney?
Nope.
It was just...
It literally was that little personality test in that pamphlet that I still have.
Oh, okay. Oh, so, yeah, I remember those tests.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No one in my family had ever graduated from high school, much less, obviously, college or
yeah.
grad school or doctorate. So when I told my family, they're like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. And that just, of course, made me dig my heels in, and here I am.
So were you able to get a scholarship, or how did you?
I worked when I got out of high school. I worked as a receptionist at an entertainment company, a circus company in Sarasota. And then the same gentleman who owned the Great American Circus owned a telemarketing company across the hall. So after I got off work as a receptionist, I would walk across the hall and do telemarketing all night. And then I worked at Domino's as a housekeeper on Siesta Key on the weekends.
Wow.
Yes. So I saved up money and finally was able, about 5 years later, to get back into college, or start college.
That's a great story.
Yes. Which is why I hate the phone to this day.
You what?
I said, which is why I hate the telephone to this day.
Really?
It's like phobic.
Yeah, I can't live without it. Yeah,
I had
I'm
too
on the
much fun.
phone all day,
Yeah.
either in front of the computer or on the phone all day.
Yes.
And I never, ever in my life dreamed that I would be, but here I am.
Here you are, living the dream.
Yeah, it is living a dream. Thank you. I noticed that you're appointed to the Judicial Nominating Committee. Tell me about that. What is that?
So that was probably one of the greatest honors of my life. And at the time, Adam Schwartz, who's also an attorney in town, reached out to me and said, I think that you would be really great at this, and please apply. So I did, and I got appointed. But what the Judicial Nominating Commission does is really powerful. It's very cool. When a judge retires, which during that time seemed to be often, they actually interview all the potential judges. So they receive the applications and do a lot of work vetting them, calling everyone, and then they send, we have a review committee and interview all of them, and then we send 3 to 5 names up to the governor, and the governor's office takes those 3 to 5 names and chooses the actual judge that he appoints from that group.
So do they apply for that, or do you recruit?
They apply.
They apply, so, okay.
Yeah, notices are posted, they apply. It's a really, strenuous process, and we've ended up with some really great judges as a result.
Tell me about Justice Major B. Harding. Tell me about that.
So when I was in law school, we had this really neat organization, and the premise was that attorneys who can be challenging sometimes and have strong personalities, the premise was that if they knew they were going to come together and break bread, if you will, once a month or whatever, that they were going to be more civil and decent to one another. And that actually, it's
Is that difficult?
sometimes, yes. Luckily, I'm a transaction attorney, so I don't deal with that much. But, when I did litigation, it gets heated. You get passionate and it gets heated. So when I first came to town, I went to a Martin County Bar Association meeting, and I was a baby attorney, and Judge Roby was the chief judge then, and he talked about this Inns of Court organization that I had been part of at law school, and I loved. And so I contacted Judge Roby right away. I wasn't smart enough to realize you can't just call the chief judge, but I did, and he was amazing, and he was very excited to hear from me. But I was a baby attorney, and he really needed like a master. So he said, can you get Richard Levenstein involved? Richard at the time was one of my bosses, my senior partners at Kramer, Sewell, Sopko, and Levenstein back then. And so I did, and we formed this Inns of Court, and it's really cool. They get together once a month and do skits based on ethics challenges to kind of set a funny comedic example, and then they have dinner together, and again, they're breaking bread with the hopes that they're going to be better citizens and better members of the bar.
That's a big one. You were listed as top 10 attorney in America's best advocate. So advocate of what?
For me, really, because I do transaction, and you don't think of advocacy when you're thinking of transaction attorneys. And real estate, maybe not as much, except that I do obviously help negotiate the contracts for my clients and make sure that the closing goes as it should and title is cleared and all that stuff. So when you think of advocates, a lot of times you think about arguing in the courtroom, but there are so many ways that attorneys can be advocates. For example, my estate planning attorneys. It's really important to me with my estate planning attorneys that we meet in person, we sit down, I get to know all about their family, their dynamics. And yesterday, for example, I met with an older woman who just lost her husband and is really, really struggling. So I got her in contact with a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And so you
actually become the advocate.
Yes. Yeah. So, you build a relationship with your clients, and you, even if it's not legal or you can't bill for it, you do try to make sure that you have their best interests at heart, even in transaction law.
Do you make medical decisions and things of that nature on behalf of?
I don't. With her, she's been a longtime client, and I just saw that she was struggling and, put her in the right direction. Obviously, with a personal injury, it's very easy to explain how I advocate on behalf of my clients who've been injured. That's a little bit easier to understand, but all these other types of law that I do, you have to advocate to.
what part of being an attorney do you enjoy most?
It's changed over the years. Now that I'm in my 50s, what I really like right now is the relationship building. I really love sitting down with my clients for a consultation, and they come in and they're nervous, whether it's personal injury or their estate planning or they don't understand the contract. I really like sitting down with them and making them feel better. And I love when my clients leave so often they say, I feel better and I'm calm now just by meeting with you.
Yeah, that has to be very rewarding, because most times when people seek the advice or help of an attorney, they're in distress.
They are.
So when that's got to be so satisfying to be able to, as you see get them situated where they feel comfortable or don't feel threatened or whatever.
Right.
What did you do any trial work?
I did. I was a prosecutor, actually. I was a prosecutor for the 19th Circuit here. I started out in Okeechobee in the misdemeanor division, and I was out there for 6 months, and they very quickly moved me to Fort Pierce. And I did, with the prosecutor's or state attorney's office, you do kind of a 2-year agreement that you'll serve for 2 years. So I kind of did my 2-year service, and coincidentally, and I believe that when things are meant to happen, they do. I had actually contacted Dick Dungy at the time, who's the managing partner for Fox Joaquin, to give my criminologist's daughter a reference. And when I did, Dick was like, I thought you wanted to do real estate. And I said, I do. And he said, well, we just took on this big developer and we could use you. And so I gave my 2 months notice at the state and haven't looked back.
So you grew up in Indiantown.
I started out in Indiantown. I ultimately grew up from half of middle school. I went to Moorhaven Middle School, and then I moved over to Sarasota and went to school there.
Did you know Bob Post?
Name sounds familiar, but
He owned the phone company. He owned the bank. He owned the hotel at one time. Between him and Johnny, they bounced it back and forth a little. But he's was a dear friend of mine. He's dead now, but he was like he was the man in Indiantown. So when I first got here, Nancy Saylor was our office manager, and I said, "Who are the players? Who do I have to meet?" She said, "Well, we have a kind of a rocky relationship with Bob Post." And I said, "Who's Bob Post?" And she said, "Well, he owns Indiantown." It's basically how he put it. I said, "Okay." So I called him, and about a week later, and he took my call, and I said, "Bob?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "My name's Joe Catrambone. I just took over as exec of the Stewart Martin County Chamber of Commerce." And he said, "What the hell you want?" I thought, oh my God, what a welcome, you know.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. I went out there and I met with him, and I was his pallbearer in his funeral. We became really best of friends. But he was a character. He was an attorney from New York.
oh geez, in Indiantown.
But his father was there long before him, and his father helped develop Indiantown. So the family was there, but that's how I got introduced to Indiantown, and I would have moved out there in a heartbeat, but my wife said, "There's not even a grocery store out there." I think the one time was it Ryan's Market?
Yeah, it's still there. I just moved from Indiantown. It's still there. So,
They're doing all that big development.
yeah,
What was it, 400 or 500 homes?
I think so. So
Yeah.
I just sold up my ranch and moved back to Palm City from Indiantown on the waterway. So I was the very last house on Canner before the lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
Wow.
have 5 acres on the water.
I love it out there.
I do too.
I love it.
I do too. It's like-
So did you have horses?
We did.
And you moved now to where?
Now we're back in Palm City and River Landing.
Okay, so you don't have horses anymore?
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We
I
had
don't
horses
either.
and donkeys and chickens
Yeah.
and goats and everything.
Yeah, I always wished I grew up on a farm. I was a city boy, but I love the country.
It's nice. It's nice. But it's good to be back in Palm City too.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I live in Martindale, so I love it there, and it's
That's where we moved from when we moved to Indiantown. We lived in Crane Creek and then we moved to
yeah. I
Indiantown.
live in Crane Creek. I live on Crane Creek Avenue, all the way down in the cul-de-sac.
Okay. And we lived on St. Andrews.
Oh yeah, well that's a high-end street, St. Andrews.
So we went from there to the ranch in Indiantown.
Oh wait, yeah, that was that a culture shock?
A bit.
Did you? How old were you when you moved to Indiana?
When I moved recently,
No.
Oh.
the-
the first time, we bounced around a bit between Canal Point and Belglade and Pahokee, and I don't know when we moved to Brady Ranch. I know we moved away from there in '82 when I was 10 years old.
okay.
Yeah.
Was that a culture shock?
It was,
For
well,
you?
we moved to Okeechobee, so
Okay.
yeah, we moved to Buckhead Ridge in Okeechobee on the little canal there. So it wasn't that, I guess, that much of a culture shock.
What are you totally satisfied in the area of law that you're practicing now? Is there something else you would, is there a second choice? Would you,
Do something besides law?
no,
Oh.
criminal law or what, a different sector or do you handle all legal issues?
I really just focus on more transaction and personal injury. So I do business transactions, like setting up LLCs. In fact, this afternoon will be LLC filings and annual reports and all that stuff. So I do the real estate. I'm a title agent doing closings. The estate planning, like I said, I love. I think I'd like to bring in probate eventually. It just fits so naturally with my business. But what I'm really finding is I love the personal injury because, as we
Where
were
you're
talking
helping
about,
people.
exactly. And they call me and they're hurt and they're scared and, they have to go see all these doctors and they're worried about the medical bills, and to be able to reassure them and calm them down is very satisfying and rewarding.
Yeah, I imagine it would be, especially if they get a nice settlement.
That certainly helps.
That's really good. It's so funny. I have a couple of friends. One of Lou is dead now from Titusville, and they were partners, and they were both criminal attorneys. And for whatever reason, I remember what it was. It was a professor from Brevard Community College was charged with murdering his wife, putting her in a trunk, driving to North Carolina, and burying her up in North Carolina. And Lou defended him and got him off. It was a tactic. I don't remember how, but I went to that trial. Now, I knew Lou. I played golf with him. We broke bread together, but I never saw him in the courtroom. Oh my God. He could have got an Academy Award. It didn't look like, it wasn't the same guy I knew. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, who's brilliant at that, if you ever get to see one of his trials, is Tom Backetall. And I'm not sure if he's still doing trials now that he's our elected state attorney. But when I was a prosecutor, it was, just grab your popcorn and go watch him in trial. He was brilliant. And it was like watching a movie. It was amazing.
Yeah. And Bob, his partner, was the same way. And Lou, he was an Italian, and put the hand gestures and everything. And Bob is sort of a waspy kind of guy. Great. I'm still friends with him. And I saw him in court the same way, and I thought, oh my God, these guys must have taken acting classes. I couldn't believe how but that's why they were so good.
Right.
I guess, yeah.
Right.
Is there something we missed that you'd like to talk about or to let people know about your practice or about you or?
I love what I do. I'm very blessed. I have wonderful children, as I think everybody knows because I brag about them all the time. But I'm very blessed to have wonderful children who have become my friends as they've gotten older. We live in a great community, and I'm just reminded every day of how blessed we are. So, no, I couldn't be happier and satisfied with what I'm doing. And
What do you do in your spare time? What do you do for fun?
well, I have a monthly cook-off group.
A cook-off?
I do. And so I'm a foodie. And during COVID,
Well, you
I-
don't show it.
thank you. But I love to cook. And so during COVID, some friends and I started a cook-off group. And we still do it every single month. In fact, we're supposed to be doing it tonight, but people are just really busy. So we ended up canceling this month's, which is unusual. But we're very dedicated to it. There's a theme every month. So tonight was going to be homemade pizzas. Next month is going to be Mardi Gras. And we dress for it, and we're going to cook Cajun and Creole and French food.
How many of you?
It depends. We also always end with karaoke. So, it's a big karaoke night at our homes.
Is there a little imbibing involved?
Not by me, obviously, but the others for sure. So it's a lot of fun. So how many of? It depends. So my big brothers, they're actually just my friends, but they're like big brothers to me, will host a lot as well. So we kind of split it up. And at their home, they have a large home in Evergreen. We usually end up with about 30 people.
Oh, wow.
My home is a little bit smaller, like 10 to 15 people, typically.
So typically, it's like you said, tonight was supposed to be what? Pizza?
Tonight was going to be homemade pizzas.
My mother had a pizza restaurant. When I was in high school, I made pizzas every Friday night and Saturday while I was in high school.
Well, you have to come when we do reschedule the pizza cook-off. You have to come.
Okay.
And I worked at Buddy's Pizza for ages in Venice, Florida. So, yes.
Did you make them, or
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, we were like a small little family-owned restaurant, and I made the pizzas.
Well,
But you'll
that's
have to come to that. And then we're going to do a Greek theme, and we have some fun stuff lined up. We always do a chili cook-off on Halloween, and we get together at my house and have the trick-or-treaters.
great. What's your
and
favorite?
My favorite cook-off that we've ever done?
Well, the type of food.
Oh, my favorite type of food, Indian food.
Indian.
I love Indian food.
Really? Mm-hmm. Never, I don't ever remember eating Indian food. My wife lived in Southeast Asia for 5 years, and she was in India for a while, and she knew, is there kishmi,
Something like that.
yeah.
I usually do chicken curry. That's my
Oh, do you?
favorite. Yeah,
Okay.
I love chicken curry. I love the
Kishmi.
raita. Yeah,
Yeah.
some Indian food.
Yeah.
But-
I'm a foodie too. I mean, there's nothing I don't like.
Same. Truthfully, same. What's funny is I really don't like pizza that much because I worked at Domino's when I was, trying to get myself back into college, and then I worked for Buddy's Pizza, and I ate a lot of pizza. So,
I could never eat too much pizza. I could eat it every day,
not the biggest pizza
and
fan.
I even like it the next morning.
What's your favorite kind?
I just leave it plain. I can tolerate pepperoni, but I don't like. I see these pizzas. We used to call them a Grand Slam, and everything, peppers, mushrooms, onions, salami. I just like pizza. So I can say I'll tolerate pepperoni, but I don't like a lot of different
A lot
stuff.
of other stuff. So I was going to make tonight, if we had it, my son's favorite pizza is a pizza with prosciutto and arugula and shaved Parmesan. So that was going to be my pizza
I
tonight.
never had prosciutto on a pizza. That's
good.
got to be good. I love
It's good.
prosciutto.
Yeah, that's very good.
I really, but I don't like any. If I put anchovies, that's all I put. I like anchovies on me, but that's all. I don't like anything else but anchovies.
Yeah.
We went from law to pizza.
I know. Well, the important things in life.
Anything else you want to talk about?
That's it. Like I said, I'm blessed. I did leadership. I loved leadership.
Oh yeah, you were in 32.
I
think.
was.
Yeah.
I was in 32.
Yeah. Oh yeah, talk about that. What did you? What was the most compelling thing you learned from leadership? Or not just learn, but
Right.
what did you get out of it in general?
It's kind of a hard question. I was going through so much at the time, the divorce and some other things. I wish I could get a do-over, to be honest with you. But I met some really great people. I knew a lot of people already that were in my class, and I got to know them better. And then I met some really great people. So I really think it's those connections. And like I said, I
It
wish I
is,
could have a
and-
do-over. So what I hope to do is to start spending more time with those people that I met in Leadership 32 and get to know them now afterwards.
That is the leadership program is the thing I am most proud of, and it's probably why I got hired because I had done leadership. I was a founding member of Leadership Brevard County, and the board at the time when I got hired wanted to do a leadership program, and there were 68 applicants for my job, and I made the final three. And later on, I found out from one of the board members that the reason they chose me was because I had done leadership in Brevard and that I would be able to bring it into Martin County. And and of course, I not interesting in Brevard County, there were 4 chambers, and we put it together. And the 4 chamber execs went through leadership Brevard Class 1, and the Today newspaper editorialized against us for how dare the execs took up 4 seats away from the general public that could take it, and the 4 execs took it. So I waited till Class 6 here before I went through it.
Gotcha.
But it was really interesting. But in Brevard, we had 60
Wow.
participants. You know, it's a huge
Yeah.
county. So
It really is such a great program. My daughter's 15, and she's kind of a joiner. So I was already looking at the application for her for
For le-
next year.
for youth,
Yeah, for the youth
Yeah.
leadership.
that's another. I'm so proud of that. And of course, our leadership alumni is who started youth leadership.
So good job bringing it up here because it's
Yeah,
a great program.
yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
And Cindy's a saint, putting up with all of us.
it's a pleasure. Anything else we missed?
No, thank you.
Thank
very
you so much. I enjoyed it.
Me
Thank you
too.
for coming.